Let me blow this up.
Oh yeah, she's getting fired.
They gonna fire her,
Unbearable.
bro.
You gotta play some fucking defense.
Yeah. What the fuck? She ain't telling her.
Put my hands up.
Hands up.
Yeah, get your hands up on the sideline. Raven, get your ass
Get
in
her
there.
ass. She can't guard. Get the black girl in there.
Fuck out.
Yeah.
Now, you know what's noticed in
Nah,
this situation?
You know she can guard.
Unfortunately, she found out in this game as well. They said that it's Steffi White's scheme. It was just like Raven Johnson never found out in South Carolina.
She's a bad coach.
That right there is the moment everything fell apart. Jeff Teague and his crew breaking down what they think they're seeing on the sideline between Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White. And notice how quickly they jump to conclusions about who should be benched, who's at fault, what needs to happen. This clip went viral within hours, racked up millions of views, and forced everyone involved into damage control mode. But here's what makes this situation so much more complicated than just another coach-player argument. Because what happened after this clip blew up reveals a pattern we've seen before in WNBA media coverage. And it's starting to have real consequences for the people involved.
So this was Cheryl Miller speaking about what happened. Let's watch it.
You go, Sue. I mean, I agree with Caitlin, what she said. This happens more often than not. I agree with her on that.
Oh, yeah, she definitely has a microscope on her. Honestly, I think it's just more of the same what we talked about yesterday, which was, for me, coach-player relationship matters. What is allowed, I guess, between that relationship. But it comes to a point where I think an area of growth for Caitlin is these moments of frustration.
Cheryl Miller, Hall of Famer, one of the most respected voices in women's basketball, and someone who's never been afraid to call it like she sees it. Until now. Watch her body language in that clip. She's backtracking, softening her stance, giving Caitlin Clark grace she didn't offer 24 hours earlier. Sue Bird is doing the heavy lifting in that conversation, but Miller is the one who had to walk back her initial reaction. And that phrase she uses is key. I have to remember that she is young, because the day before, Miller wasn't remembering that at all. She was criticizing Clark's emotional control, questioning her championship DNA, suggesting she needs to learn how to handle frustration better. Now suddenly it's about giving grace and understanding the pressure. So what changed between those two broadcasts? Simple. The backlash was immediate and brutal.
Cheryl Miller is possibly being forced to apologize to Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White after her viral moment that took place on TV the other day. So we all know that there was an exchange between Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White. Everybody and their mama talking about it. It blew up. And it looked like yesterday they tried to do some damage control for the media and let everybody know that they're good. Well, I don't believe they're good, and I believe their PR stunt is going to backfire, and they're going to be more outbreak at the outbreak at the outbreak. And I don't know, man. It's just going to be a very interesting season because locker room genre typically kills basketball teams, football teams. It don't matter any damn.
This is where the story actually begins. The content creator laying out exactly what he thinks is happening behind the scenes. Cheryl Miller being forced to apologize. Stephanie White losing control of her locker room. A PR stunt that's going to backfire. And he's drawing a direct parallel to what happened with Elle Duncan at ESPN. That comparison matters because it reveals the stakes here. Elle Duncan went hard at Cheryl Swoops over her treatment of Caitlin Clark. She didn't hold back, called out what she saw as unfair criticism, and according to multiple reports, ESPN made her apologize on air. Then months later, Duncan left ESPN entirely for Netflix and USA Network. The official story was about new opportunities. But anyone watching closely saw the timeline. Now we're watching the same pattern play out with Cheryl Miller. Initial criticism of Clark, viral backlash from Clark's fanbase, sudden on-air pivot to a softer stance. And the question everyone's asking is whether this was Miller's choice, or whether someone behind the scenes told her to clean it up.
Like, you throwing shots at Caitlin Clark? Like, Stephanie White need to learn how to coach. Teachable moment for her. Learn how to coach.
When she's frustrated on the court, when she's not getting the calls, when she's getting calls against her, these are areas, all players, when things are going your well and you're playing great, this is, yes, of course, you win games. I think championship teams, I think great players, they find ways when it's not going their way. That's when you know you have like a championship DNA inside of you, when you're frustrated and you can find ways. So to me, it's more about that, right? Like, how are you going to handle that moment next time?
Here's what makes this significant for the broader WNBA media landscape. We're now 2 full seasons into the Caitlin Clark era, and the league still hasn't figured out how to handle the massive fan base she brought with her. Clark supporters are protective, organized, and extremely online. They track every comment, clip every segment, and mobilize quickly when they perceive unfair treatment of their player. That's not inherently good or bad, it's just the reality. But it's creating a chilling effect on honest basketball analysis. Because if you're a commentator and you see what happened to Swoops and potentially to Duncan, and now you're watching Miller walk back her comments in real time, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is offering legitimate criticism of Caitlin Clark's defensive lapses or emotional reactions worth the professional consequences? Miller's comment about championship DNA was actually substantive analysis. Players who can maintain composure when things aren't going their way do tend to perform better in high-pressure situations. That's not controversial, that's basketball 101. But because it was directed at Clark, and because the clip got framed as another example of WNBA legends being unfair to the rookie sensation, Miller ended up in a position where she felt compelled to soften her stance. And look at how she does it. She pivots to talking about the pressure Clark faces, the microscope she's under, the expectations placed on her shoulders. All of that is true, but it's also a way of redirecting the conversation away from the specific basketball criticism she initially offered. She's not saying her analysis was wrong, she's just adding context that makes it sound less harsh.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've got to say one thing about Caitlin, and I sometimes I have to remember that she is young, Sue, and the amount of pressure that is on this young lady, and she's coming back, from her injuries and living up to what everybody expects her to be and do and whatnot can be a little bit overwhelming. So I'm gonna give her some grace, and she's right about one thing. I know I've been in situations like that before. It's never played out public.
Now Cheryl Miller is kind of backtracking, man. Cheryl Miller singing a totally different tune today. I'ma still rock with you, Cheryl Miller, but you're looking spooky. You're looking spooky, Cheryl. Don't let them people get to you, Cheryl. Don't let them people do you like that.
Like this was, but I can understand where she's coming from a little bit.
Yeah, the camera hasn't been on huddles like the way it is now.
No.
Like I literally, we were talking
not.
backstage. I have stories on stories about moments like this.
Now we get to the actual incident that started all of this. The sideline exchange between Clark and White during a game the Fever were losing. And here's where things get murky, because we're all trying to read lips, interpret body language, and figure out what was actually said in a heated moment. The content creator's interpretation is that Stephanie White told Clark to play some defense, and Clark responded that she had her hands up. That's his read. Jeff Teague's crew had their own interpretation. Fans on social media had dozens of different versions. But nobody actually knows for certain what was said, because there's no audio. What we do know is this: the Fever were struggling defensively. Clark has been criticized all season for her defensive effort, which is fair because defense has never been her strength. White is a first-year head coach trying to establish her system and her authority. And in a frustrating loss, tempers flared on the sideline in a way that got captured on camera. That happens in basketball. It happens in every sport. Coaches and players get into it during games all the time. The difference here is that when it involves Caitlin Clark, it doesn't stay on the sideline. It becomes a multi-day news cycle with think pieces and viral clips and commentators being forced to choose sides.
But the camera wasn't on you. Yeah.
True.
Look, that's how y'all liked it. Y'all liked it without no cameras on you. This situation right here remind me of L. Duncan. So L. Duncan kind of went at Cheryl Swoops for going at Caitlin Clark. And she was damn near forced to apologize for it. Now, I believe it was ESPN that forced L. Duncan to apologize to Cheryl Swoops for kind of going at Caitlin Clark. Hence why L. Duncan ain't at ESPN no more. See, I ain't want to say nothing about that when L. Duncan was leaving ESPN, but we all know L. Duncan left ESPN to go to Netflix and USA Network. She possibly left because they told her to apologize and take her take back that she did on Cheryl Swoops. Like, she went at Cheryl Swoops pretty hard. And that's what this Cheryl Miller situation reminds me very, very is.
And this is the part that should concern everyone involved with the Fever organization. Cheryl Miller makes a crucial point in that exchange with Sue Bird. She mentions having stories about similar moments with coaches, but the difference is the cameras weren't on. That's the key phrase, but the camera wasn't on you. Because in previous eras of women's basketball, these sideline exchanges happened and then they stayed in the arena. Players and coaches worked it out internally. Maybe there was tension for a day or two, but it didn't become a referendum on the coach's competence or the player's attitude. The lack of constant camera coverage and instant social media reaction actually gave teams space to handle their business privately. The Fever don't have that luxury anymore. Every game is televised, every sideline interaction is captured from multiple angles, every facial expression gets analyzed frame by frame. And Clark's fanbase is watching all of it with an intensity that no WNBA player has ever experienced before. That creates an impossible situation for Stephanie White. She's trying to coach basketball, which sometimes requires being direct and demanding with your star player. But she also knows that any moment of visible tension is going to be clipped, posted, analyzed, and potentially used as evidence that she's mishandling the franchise cornerstone. How do you coach effectively under those conditions? The hacking claim at the end there adds another layer to this whole situation. The content creator says his channel was compromised 2 hours after he posted a video criticizing Stephanie White. Banner removed, profile picture changed, bank information altered in his AdSense account, locked out of all his socials. Now, we need to be careful here. Hacking claims are serious, and without evidence we can't definitively connect it to the Stephanie White video. YouTube channels get compromised all the time for various reasons. Timing can be coincidental, but the fact that he's making this claim publicly and doing it in the same video where he's already talking about forced apologies and media pressure suggests he believes there's a connection. Whether that's true or not, it speaks to the paranoia and tension that's building around Caitlin Clark coverage. Content creators feel like they're taking risks by criticizing certain people or certain narratives. Commentators are walking back their analysis after backlash, and everyone's looking over their shoulder wondering if there will be professional consequences for saying the wrong thing. That's not a healthy media environment for anyone. Not for the league, not for the players, not for the journalists and creators trying to cover the sport honestly. So let's talk about what actually needs to happen here, because this pattern can't continue. The WNBA is experiencing unprecedented growth, largely because of Caitlin Clark's drawing power. That's fantastic for the league. But with that growth comes scrutiny, pressure, and a level of fan intensity that the league infrastructure wasn't built to handle. First, the Fever organization needs to get ahead of these situations instead of reacting to them. When a sideline exchange goes viral, don't wait 24 hours to do damage control. Address it immediately. Have Clark and White available to media right after the game to explain what happened in their own words. Don't let the narrative get written by people reading lips and speculating. Second, WNBA media members need to stand by their legitimate basketball analysis. If Cheryl Miller thinks Clark needs to improve her composure in frustrating moments, she should be able to say that without facing a backlash so severe she feels compelled to walk it back. The alternative is that everyone just starts offering bland, safe takes that don't actually help viewers understand the game. That's not good for basketball discourse. Third, and this is crucial, Stephanie White has to be allowed to coach without every tough conversation becoming a public incident. The Fever hired her because she's a proven winner who knows how to develop talent and build winning systems. But she can't do that job if she's constantly worried about how a heated moment is going to play on social media. The organization needs to back her publicly and create space for her to coach the way she knows how. Fourth, Clark's fanbase needs to understand that criticism of her game is not hatred of her as a person. She's a phenomenal offensive player who's transforming the league's visibility. She's also a work in progress defensively who sometimes lets frustration affect her body language. Both things can be true. And commentators should be able to point out the second thing without being accused of trying to tear her down. The Elle Duncan situation should be a warning, not a template. Duncan was a rising star at ESPN who built a loyal following by offering honest, passionate takes on sports. When she criticized Cheryl Swoop's treatment of Clark, she was doing her job as a commentator. The fact that ESPN allegedly made her apologize, and the fact that she left the network shortly after, sends a message to every other media personality. Be careful what you say about Caitlin Clark. That's a problem because it means we're going to get less honest analysis and more calculated takes designed to avoid backlash. Commentators will start hedging everything with disclaimers. I think Clark is amazing, but I'm not hating on her. However, she's the best thing to happen to the league, although nobody wants to be the next person getting ratioed on Twitter or facing professional consequences for basketball criticism. And here's the thing that's getting lost in all of this. Caitlin Clark herself has handled most of this pretty well. She's been professional in interviews. She's acknowledged areas where she needs to improve. She's praised her coaches and teammates. The drama isn't coming from her. It's coming from the ecosystem around her, the media coverage, the fan reactions, the pressure on everyone to say the right thing. The comparison to LeBron James's early career is instructive. When LeBron entered the NBA, he faced intense scrutiny and criticism. People questioned his clutch gene, his decision-making, his leadership. Commentators weren't afraid to point out his weaknesses alongside his strengths, and that honest analysis actually helped fans understand his development as a player. By the time he won his first championship, everyone had a sophisticated understanding of how he'd grown. Clark deserves the same treatment. She deserves honest analysis that acknowledges both her transcendent offensive skills and her defensive limitations. She deserves coaching that pushes her to be better, even if that means some uncomfortable conversations on the sideline. And she deserves a media environment where commentators can discuss her game without fear of professional consequences. But we're not there yet. Instead, we're watching Cheryl Miller walk back legitimate criticism. We're seeing content creators claim they're being targeted for their takes. We're witnessing a first-year coach trying to navigate an impossible situation where every interaction with her star player gets dissected and weaponized. The Fever have a crucial stretch coming up. If they keep losing while this drama continues, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Losing basketball games amplifies every bit of tension in a locker room. What seems like a minor disagreement during a winning streak becomes evidence of a dysfunctional relationship during a losing streak. Stephanie White needs to establish clear boundaries and expectations with her team. Caitlin Clark needs to continue maturing as a player and learning how to channel frustration productively. And the media ecosystem around the WNBA needs to figure out how to cover the league's biggest star honestly without either tearing her down or treating her as above criticism. Because right now, we're in a weird middle ground where everyone's walking on eggshells. Commentators are self-censoring, coaches are worrying about optics instead of just coaching, and fans are turning every basketball discussion into a loyalty test. That's not sustainable. The WNBA has an incredible opportunity right now with the attention Clark has brought to the league. But if the cost of that attention is that nobody can have honest conversations about the basketball being played, then the league is going to struggle to build on this momentum. So the question becomes, can the WNBA and its media partners create an environment where Caitlin Clark gets the superstar coverage she's earned while also being held to the same analytical standards as every other elite player? Can coaches like Stephanie White be allowed to coach without every tough moment becoming a viral incident? Can commentators like Cheryl Miller offer legitimate criticism without facing backlash so severe they have to walk it back? The answers to those questions will determine whether this era of growth leads to long-term sustainability or whether it collapses under the weight of manufactured drama and self-censorship. And based on what we've seen over the past few days, we're not trending in the right direction. What do you think? Is Cheryl Miller being forced to apologize, or did she genuinely reconsider her take? Is Stephanie White losing control of her locker room, or is this just normal basketball tension being blown out of proportion? And should media members be able to criticize Caitlin Clark's game without facing professional consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and let's keep this conversation going because this story is far from over.